All right. Good evening, everybody. It's the Fantasy Sports Boss. Welcome to Fantasy Football Live. It is Wednesday, December 27th, 2023, and the nerves are beginning to settle in as the championship week gets ready to kick off tomorrow for a lot of us. I've told you guys I have one league left that I'm in. Went 1 for 2 in the semis last week. Heartbreaking loss. I had the best team all year in my work league. But I just ran into the Breece Hall, Evan Engram buzzsaw. And so I'm on my way out in that league. No consolation prize in that one. And then in my friends and family league, I'm set to go starting tomorrow with Garrett Wilson. So, and I'm going to share, I am the favorite going in. Right now, going into this matchup, I have a 61% chance the last time I checked to win. I'm going to share with you guys the roster of who I have compared to my opponent. Also, obviously, if you have any questions, you post it in the message board there. If you're new to the channel, just stumbling upon the channel, hit that subscribe button and the notification button as well. Been a little bit light on the live streams lately because of the holidays and everything, but and this really is the de facto final week. Now, I know next week there's some leagues that do go into week 18, which is just ridiculous. I'm not one of them. I'm not gonna patronize anybody by trying to figure out who to start next week. So as far as I'm concerned, the fantasy football season ends this week, and that's how it should be. Hey, Emil, how are you? For me, I tell you what, getting to a fantasy football championship is obviously rewarding, but also stressful. I mean, I know in my friends and family league, this is almost 20 years now. We've been doing that league with pretty much the same people. I have 5 championships in 19 years. And I've also lost in the final, I believe, 4 or 5 times as well. And you remember the losses more than you do the wins. Now, I'm the defending champ in this league, but last year, there's definitely an asterisk. I'll be the first to admit because my opponent in the final last year had Josh Allen and Joe Mixon, and I had T. Higgins, and obviously the Damar Hamlin situation unfolded. We wound up playing it forward into the next week with those 3 players, and I wound up winning. But once the dynamics of that matchup changed and they didn't finish out that Bengals-Bills game, it definitely left an asterisk there for anybody who won under those circumstances last season. So this year, I'd like to finally get it done legitimately, and it starts tomorrow because I have Garrett Wilson going against the Cleveland Browns. At least right now, I've been trying to find a way to bench him. It's a brutal matchup. I have Tyler Lockett on the bench. He's very hit or miss, hot and cold. There's supposed to be bad weather, and that is a de facto playoff game between the Seahawks and the Steelers. I don't trust Lockett. I have bad memories of Tyler Lockett a couple of years ago when in a final against the Arizona Cardinals of all teams, he caught 1 pass. I don't know if anybody remembers that. So I'm not sure I want to make that move. I know Garrett Wilson has what's been some very ugly situations this season with the quarterback play. So I'm mulling that over. Hey, Rain, how are you? Didn't make the championship. Thanks for another great year. My second year in fantasy. I'm playing in 3rd place game. And if I win and get 205, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we run into the wrong matchups. Like I said, I had the best team all year, number 1 seed, first round bye, and I lose in the semis, the first playoff game, because like I said, I ran into a 40+ point game from Breece Hall. I mean, there's just nothing you could do about that. And thank you, Rain. I appreciate that. Made the Super Bowl with Hurts, Gibbs, Bijan, Kyron, Lamb, Evans, Jets, Raiders. Wow. Yeah, that's an impressive haul there, Sean. And really, 2 keys just from your team is Mike Evans and Kyron Williams. Mike Evans, everybody kind of shied away from again. And we always seem to do that for a guy who just does nothing but reel off 1,000-yard seasons like it's nothing. And he just produces no matter who the quarterback is. And, it's the guy is one of the most underrated players I've ever seen in my entire life. He's just that good. And then Kyron Williams was the other one. I mean, he truly is a league-winning player. Here's why I lost, because Amari Cooper's 51. Yeah, Amari Cooper, that was the 2nd highest scoring game this season. in fantasy. That was just ridiculous. And, not that anybody could have predicted 51 points, but when Joe Flacco became the quarterback, I said right away, this is great news for Amari Cooper with a pocket quarterback. And, we've seen what's transpired over the last couple of weeks. Playing for third, lost to Amari. Yeah, there's another one, Steve. It seems like Amari Cooper, if you went against him, if you went against Breece Hall, you went down. There's just no way to survive that. We got some breaking news. Rhamondre Stevenson, his season is over now for the New England Patriots, as they just put him on injured reserve. So his year is done. Ezekiel Elliott gets the Buffalo Bills, and Elliott has not run the football well at all, but he's been a major outlet target of Bailey Zappi. So now I have to even think about him in my championship. And he's helped deliver me 2 wins over the last 3 weeks. But I have to see, what's going on there. But Rhamondre Stevenson is right there as one of the biggest busts of fantasy. Like he showed glimpses, was never able to put Ezekiel Elliott away. Everybody, including myself, was high on him as a second-round pick in PPR because he ran the ball really well last year, caught 1 million passes. The offensive system is just a joke in New England, and that dragged him down for sure. But he went down as a big bust, as did Miles Sanders. Steve, you're absolutely right. Yeah, Miles Sanders, all that money they gave him, and let's be fair, he was really good last year for the Eagles. But to allow Chuba Hubbard to take over the job is just a terrible job there for sure. I appreciate all the videos this season. You're welcome, Will. Best advice out there. I appreciate that. Thank you. I work hard at this. It's not easy. Growth is linear. There's a lot of channels out there, but I try to always be around for you guys and answer all your questions. One last time, DJ Moore, Rashee Rice, 1,000%. Listen, he's the guy now in this offense. Travis Kelce's not playing well. And I don't want to hear any of this nonsense about Taylor Swift. I mean, let's get real with that. But he does not look like the same player for sure. Trevor Lawrence did not practice today. That's another big one. Neither did Isaiah Pacheco, and the entire Miami Dolphins offense did not practice today. All right, so typical Wednesday rest day probably for all of these guys, but that's something we have to take a look at for sure. I think I'm done drafting early running backs. Pollard, yeah, Tony Pollard. Listen, I posted and if you didn't watch it, I posted the latest podcast this morning. I discussed Tony Pollard, who I do agree is probably the biggest bust in fantasy this season, relative to the fact that he stayed healthy, but just underperformed the entire season. It's just no ifs, ands, buts about it. Down the stretch of the season, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, these two guys have gone belly up again as well. Diggs in particular, man, it's been ugly. You wonder what's going on there. Is there some disharmony still percolating? I mean, we don't know. A couple of questions for third place game. Kenneth Walker against the Steelers. I mean, he's solid. He's a good runner. Nobody ever takes away the fact that Kenneth Walker is a really effective runner, but he just doesn't catch the ball enough. Zach Charbonnet is a talented backup handcuff. That's a tough defense, but listen, you need him probably. I would assume he's one of your best backs, so you're probably going to have to play him. Kyron, Gus Bus, Browning, Lilly saved my seat. And I thought I would say that. Yeah, seriously. Kyron Williams, that one was a real surprise. We've seen Gus Edwards, every year of his career, he's averaged over 5 per carry. So we've seen ability from him before, even though he doesn't catch the ball. Browning, who knew, just a complete crapshoot there. Dynasty question, trade Kelce, 2026 first and second for Amon-Ra. That's a lot. That's a lot to give up. I have no objection about giving up Kelce, but a first and a second and Kelce, that seems like it's a lot. Too gnarly in the dead zone. So a lot of the dead zone backs this year are out of the dead zone. Rachaad White, Kyron Williams, Breece Hall. Well, Breece Hall wasn't a dead zone back, but certainly Rachaad White was. We have to see how this unfolds, right? If Devin Singletary, is not back with the Texans, Dameon Pierce will probably fall back into the dead zone. And he was solid as a rookie. It's really, really hard to say what happens with Joe Mixon in Cincinnati. Chase Brown, maybe he falls into the dead zone. The draft will determine a lot of that as well. So we're just going to have to see how it unfolds. Najee Harris will probably fall into that, even though he's just boring as all hell. So as far as my matchup, I've looked at this matchup a million times. Let me pull it up on my phone now just to tell you guys what I'm up against. Right now, I am projected for 137 points, my opponent for 119. I have a 63% chance to win. He's 37%. Now, he finished number one ahead of me in the league. He had the most wins. I was number two, and we seemed like we were on a collision course throughout the season. I feel like I have good matchups this week. Now, should I play Ezekiel Elliott versus Buffalo Singletary? I would play Elliott because he's going to catch a lot of passes. In full PPR, pick one: Walker, Cooper, Zeke, Walker. Well, two Walkers. I would go with Cooper. I know he's playing the Jets, but they got a really good thing going on with him right now. Now, my quarterback, of course, is Lamar Jackson. I love Lamar Jackson. You all know I draft him every year. Like, he's just a guy I am a complete sucker for. Although in this league, I drafted Jalen Hurts and I traded him for Garrett Wilson and Lamar Jackson, and that ultimately saved my season. Lamar has outscored Jalen Hurts since I made that move. As a matter of fact, 3 of the last 4 games, he's outscored Hurts, so it's actually worked out. Lamar should be MVP, yes, and he has a good matchup against Miami. I really like this matchup. And the ironic thing is his opponent at QB is also who my opponent in fantasy has. My opponent's going with Tua. And I have to say, I love that trade-off. Like, Tua has a horrible matchup against the Ravens. Look what the Ravens just did to Brock Purdy. So he's going with him, and his backup quarterback is Jordan Love, who I actually would start against the Vikings over Tua, but he's got Tua in there. So I think I have the advantage there. Now, our 3 receivers, I have CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, and Garrett Wilson. Now, how did I end up with both Jefferson and Lamb? Well, I'll tell you. I drafted Jefferson in the first round. During the early portion of the season, I traded for CeeDee Lamb. I traded Raheem Mostert and Garrett Wilson for Lamb after Mostert was coming off a string of like nuclear games, and Lamb was off to somewhat of a slow start in September, and I made that deal. Now, I've since gotten Wilson back in the Jalen Hurts trade, but those are my 3 wideouts. So CeeDee Lamb, Jefferson, and Wilson. Now, Wilson has a tough matchup. Yeah, no Waddle, Sean. You're right. Wilson has a tough matchup, but I think I'm inclined to play him. Now, my opponent, his receivers are good too. He's got Amon-Ra St. Brown, stud. Stephon Diggs, ordinarily a stud. And he's got Devontae Smith, who's playing very well the second half of the season. Now, I think I like my receivers better. If you were to draft these 6 guys, I think my 2 would be picked first and second, Lamb and Jefferson. Then I think St. Brown, Diggs, and Smith would go next, and then Garrett Wilson. So, again, I think I have the advantage there. Now, running backs. We play 2 running backs. I'm going right now with James Conner and Javonte Williams. Not the most impressive. I've benched Conner each of the last 2 weeks, and I've regretted it. Now, I've survived those stupid decisions because Conner went crazy the last couple of weeks, but now I have him in there. It's a tough matchup against Philadelphia. Javonte Williams seems like he's running in quicksand, but he gets the Chargers, and he should be the focal point of the offense because of Russell Wilson getting benched, which I will discuss in a second. My opponent has Derrick Henry and Devin Achane. Now, Achane, not much has happened since he's come back from injury. I think he's still hurt, but with no Jalen Waddle, I anticipate them using him a lot in the passing game. And he's got Derrick Henry, who last time he took on the Texans, I think rushed for like 16 yards. So I do like my back slightly over his, although I think it's a draw. I mean, Derrick Henry and Achane to my Conner and Williams. Some might even say I come out on the short end on that one. Tight end, I have Trey McBride, who's been a monster since he's become the starter. My opponent lost TJ Hawkinson, so that really helps me, and he's going with Isaiah Likely. Now, I have Lamar Jackson at quarterback. I'm not too happy about this because if he throws a touchdown to Likely or anytime he throws to Likely, he wins out because it's a PPR league. But I still think McBride is a better player. Right now at flex, I have Isaiah Pacheco in there. Right? We don't know what the deal is with his concussion. I have on standby Jake Ferguson or Tyler Lockett to go in there at flex. My opponent right now is flexing Josh Jacobs if he plays. He's got Zamir White as a backup. So I think his flex is stronger than mine. Although if Pacheco plays, I think it's close. I don't know if Pacheco is going to be able to beat the concussion protocol. And then finally, defense. I got Chicago against Atlanta. He's got the Chargers against Denver. I know Denver made the QB switch, but I don't really like that move on his part. I also have the Rams on the bench, and he's got Denver on the bench as well. So listen, I have a 63% chance to win this matchup. 137 to 119 is the projection. If I can't get this done, then I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not meant to be. So this is a prime chance for me to finally win this league. And like I said, last year, it's not a satisfying win for me. I really want this to be the win this year. So we'll see what happens starting tomorrow. Eckler or Ty, both good matchups. Kyler or Flacco. I like Kyler. Flacco against the Jets is trouble. Jets defense is really, really good, and they get after the quarterback. And, of course, Flacco doesn't move. So I like Kyler, who's been putting up points. He's like the garbage time quarterback again this year, just like he was last year before he got hurt. As far as Eckler, the matchup's good. So Denver's been a funnel for running backs all year. And, Ezekiel Elliott had a big game on Christmas Eve there. So I think Eckler, who had 11 points last week, I think he's a good play this week. Although he definitely disappointed overall this season. Full PPR, which QB? 4 points for TD. I like 6 points for TD because it evens out the running quarterbacks and the passing ones. Stafford, Murray, Baker, Goff, or Love. Wow. Let me see. I would have to say, I like Stafford. Who else do you have there? Love, Goff. Goff's against Dallas. I don't like that matchup, especially being on the road. I like Stafford. Tampa Bay, New Orleans, and Marshawn Lattimore might be back for that game. That's a little sketchy. Murray, said Murray, right? Yeah, so I like Jordan Love's matchup against the Vikings. Oh, the Vikings defense has played well this season. And then Kyler Murray. Who the hell are they playing? Kyler Murray. Oh, Philadelphia. No, I don't think so. I think it's either Stafford. Actually, you know what? I think Murray or Stafford. That's my choice there. I actually might pick Murray because, and he's got weapons. They're going to be playing from behind, a lot of throwing, and the Eagles you could throw on. You've been able to throw on the Eagles all season. Should I start Flacco or Fields? I don't like the Flacco matchup this week. I definitely would go with Fields. If Pacheco's out, do you play Henry or Chandler? Chandler. I think you got to play Chandler. Henry, look what he did against the Texans last time. It was pathetic. All right, let me get to this Russell Wilson thing. So that was a big one today. We had 2 quarterback moves today. So the Denver Broncos pulled the plug on Russell Wilson this season. And they had a slim percent chance of making a playoffs. I think it was like 6% going into this week. But both of their last 2 games were winnable games. They have the Chargers this week and they have the Raiders next week. They could easily win both of these games to go 9-8, and possibly we've seen crazier things in the playoff chase. Teams come from out of nowhere. There was still a chance the Denver Broncos could make the playoffs, but they saw dollar signs and they decide to bench Wilson because of financial implications here, not wanting to pay Russell Wilson already with a ridiculous contract, some of these attainable incentives and whatnot. And so they will now go with Jarrett Stidham, who's shown flashes in the past, but is clearly a downgrade from Wilson. And my initial reaction is if I'm in that Denver Broncos locker room, I am beside myself right now. I mean, this is waving the white flag in the most awful way possible. You take a veteran locker room, which this Denver Broncos locker room is, and you say to them, okay, you still had a chance to make the playoffs, but fuck that. We don't want to pay Russell Wilson. We're going to bench him for Jarrett Stidham. Like, are you kidding? Like, this is where we're at. And Sean Payton, who, let's face it, he is a shady character as a coach. We all know that. The bounty gate, the breaking the coach code by criticizing the Jets OC there. He's just not a decent human being. And to decide to bench your veteran quarterback, no matter what you feel about Russell Wilson, he's had a good season. The numbers have been very good. Not the Seattle Pro Bowl Wilson, but you know what? Not that far off. And Peyton deserves a lot of credit for bringing this team back from that embarrassment against Miami. But now he does this, and he basically waves the white flag with 2 weeks to go against 2 winnable teams. Like, that is an absolute disgrace. What nonsense. Absolute nonsense to do that to that team when they still had a chance to win and get into the playoffs. I don't care how minuscule. The wrong message. So Wilson takes a seat. Sam Howell taking a seat for Jacoby Brissett. And if you're a Commanders fan, like, keep giving Howell the ball. Why not see what you have? And it's looking like now they're going to be a player for one of these quarterbacks. Whether they move up to take Drake May, Caleb Williams, or wait for, have a Bo Nix or, the kid from Michigan, McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr. There's a lot of quarterbacks. So, I thought they should just keep playing Howell. I know he's struggling. He looks like his confidence is completely shot. And Jacoby Brissett has played well. Ron Rivera, he knows he's fired, so he's probably thinking to himself, let me just get a couple of wins before they show me the door. But I don't think that was in the best interest of the Commanders. But this franchise is a joke anyway. I mean, let's face it. 1 out of 3 teams reach finals, predicted to finish 9th. All right, Mark. I mean, listen, you got one team in the final. That's the goal every year. It's just to get at least one team in the final so you can get to the end of the season. Shots fired out, fantasy dog, not a good person. I try to bring it best I could. When stuff like that happens, the Denver thing, what a disgrace. What an absolute disgrace that would even be something that would happen. All right, so Charles injury still for Keenan Allen. I told you this a couple of weeks ago. I really thought unofficially he might shut it down, and I think that's what's going on here. He's been beat up for a while, talking about Keenan Allen. Josh Palmer's in concussion protocol. We talked about Trevor Lawrence. He did not practice today, although, again, Doug Peterson saying he thinks he has a chance to play. I mean, guys, it's over. You're not making the playoffs. Stop getting this kid's ass beat every week. Let him take a seat. My God. I mean, he's playing awful right now because he's hurt everywhere. And who knows if he's over the concussion, because I don't trust any of these NFL teams. No Hollywood Brown today. No Kyler Murray. Probably veteran rest day for both. Not worried about that yet. We talked Deebo Samuel. Somebody mentioned it, but, he's always hurt as well. Jeremy Ruckert out for the Jets. Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson out for the Jets. Jeremy Ruckert, by the way, I coached against. He grew up here on Long Island, played for Lindenhurst High School. We played against him in the Suffolk County, the county championships, which is where I live here on Long Island. And he utterly dominated us his entire season whenever we played him. Really, really good player. Really terrific receiver. The Jets have somebody I think they could build around there with him. I know they have Tyler Conklin, who's done a nice job, but Jeremy Ruckert, good blocker, went to Ohio State. He was a handful when we played him. He was a little douchey. He thought he was all that, wouldn't look you in the eye when you shook his hand and putting the finger up to shush the crowd when he played in front of our home crowd, like stuff like that, But again, he's in high school. I can't get on him too much there. Had Waddle get thumbed in the eye. Kamara did squat, bad week. Yeah, Kamara, that was another one. Kamara bombed out too. And, I talked about it in the podcast. He's aging. He's under 4 per carry again for the second time in 3 years. So you got to be very careful with him next season as well. Jalen Waddle, high ankle sprain. They haven't exactly shut the door on him playing this week, but I can't see that happening. So he's beat up again. Concussion for Sutton. His value is now in the complete tank with Jarrett Stidham. Let's be fair, though. Jarrett Stidham has had some moments where he's shown he could play in the NFL. But I'd be very – Cortland Sutton's already limited, so I wouldn't rush to put him out there. No Dontavian Wexler, Christian Watson today for the Packers. 200 Dolphins put up 42 against them. Yeah, they did. This is Ravens defense, though. I mean, look what they just did to Brock Purdy, Eddie. So I think it's a different setup this year. Hey, what's going on? K3 finals nailed my first 5 picks. 12 man this year. CD, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah, there it is again. Towards the end of that second round area, early second round area code. That's where you made a killing. In the league I just got eliminated in, though, I smashed with Amon-Ra in the first round and AJ Brown in the second round. So I know I ran into some bad luck, but those two guys carried me all year. And then he took Hurts. Yeah, I did Hurts and Josh Allen in the third round in both of my leagues. I did go quarterback. And I told you this year, this is the first time I've done that. I was always value at quarterback. Over the years, I've been Matt Ryan, Eli Manning, Tony Romo, I love Tony Romo back in the day. He's always so productive and cost efficient. Same thing with Matt Ryan. But now with the running quarterback changing the landscape of fantasy, you wanted to get one of these guys. And so I splurged early for the first time, and I got both of them. Both guys were slam dunk investments. Pat Mahomes, meanwhile, is QB7 right now after he was going as the first quarterback. Brees, Kamara. Yeah, I mean, listen, that's a dream start to your draft for sure. Rudolph, and I'm playing against Amon-Ra this week, and I'm scared. Rudolph's still starting. I might need Pickens after Dell Waddle. Yeah, you know what? That was weird. Mason Rudolph playing as good as he did. And George Pickens. So that's somebody I'm going to watch very closely this offseason. Depending who the Steelers get at quarterback. Do they sign somebody, trade for someone, draft someone? They're going to bring somebody in. I might be very interested in George Pickens. And, you know, when he came out for the draft, if not for some off-the-field issues that he had in college, Pickens would have been the first quarterback drafted. All right? Wide receiver, excuse me. The first wide receiver drafted. He is a breathtaking talent. Anybody who watches him play can see it. Game-breaking speed, deep threat, terrific hands. Like, he's got the total package. A little bit of a head case. He's got the diva wide receiver thing going on. But he is somebody I'm going to watch very closely when it comes to who his quarterback is going to be, because I'll be ready to strike. Chubb was a bust in 2 leagues. Yeah, but that was injury, Mark, not so much performance. Whereas Tony Pollard, it was performance. Amon-Ra St. Brown is 3 of leagues, receptions. Yep. Yeah, listen, all of those guys, all of those receivers balled out. And even, you know, Jefferson, Chase, it was injuries. It wasn't a production issue. The guys that have production issues among those top group of receivers was Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs of late. He didn't start out that way, but Stephon Diggs of late has been a major pain in the ass for his owners. So in my 2 leagues, I thought this was interesting. I did this last year. I took a look at the final 4 teams in both of my leagues because I wanted to see if there was any common denominator among players as far as which players made the final 4 in both of my leagues. All right, because I gather that's probably the majority of leagues as well. So I made a list of these players that made the final 4 in both of my leagues, and I think it's interesting to see. Now, there was only 2 quarterbacks who made the finals in both of my leagues. Josh Allen was 1, the final 4. Josh Allen was 1. He's QB1. QB1 3 of the last 4 years, so no surprise there. The other one was Brock Purdy. And I told you guys about how the guy who just eliminated me in our draft was being funny. He said, I'm just going to do this for the joke. I'm taking Brock Purdy as the last pick of our draft. And he turned out to be an MVP candidate. So he and Allen are the only 2 quarterbacks that made the final 4 in both of my leagues. Adam screwed me last year, stayed away this. Yeah, Mark, he was bad in the playoffs last year. He's bad in the playoffs again this year. Pollard says healthy now. Yeah, you know what? That could be the case. So am I willing to give Pollard a mulligan next year? Maybe, depending where he falls. CMC in both of my files? Yes. Now I'm getting to the running back. CMC was in the final 4 in both of my leagues. And again, just like Josh Allen, not a shock. Okay. Here's what's interesting. Isaiah Pacheco made the final 4 in both of my leagues. And it's not at all surprising because he was a value running back. And I said up and down all around, value running back this year. It was the year of the value back. Rachaad White, David Montgomery, James Conner when he's on the field, Devin Achane, right? All of these guys. This is where the money was made at running back in fantasy. Isaiah Pacheco, Alvin Kamara, right? Sean, yes, Alvin Kamara. So that is where the money was made. So Isaiah Pacheco was in both of my final 4 leagues. Devin Achane made the final 4 in both of my leagues. And he was a smash early season pickup, not so much of late. And remember, when he came back from injury, I went on record here saying trade him. His value will never be higher. He's not going to replicate 1 touchdown every 6 touches, which was just ridiculous, completely unsustainable. So hopefully you listen. He was a back that made the final 4 in both of my leagues. Wide receivers. I thought this one was interesting. Justin Jefferson made the Final Four in both of my leagues. And you're thinking to yourself, and I own him in one of those leagues. You had to think, okay, he missed so much time. Probably those teams who drafted him first or second overall, they bombed out. You would think, but you can survive a wide receiver going out more than you could, an early pick wide receiver going out more than you can survive a running back going out, an early round running back going out. You just can. So maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. Olave in the finals of both of my leagues. Yeah, I could see that. I absolutely could see that. Hey, man, I told you my draft starts early this season. You said congrats on the league winning draft, and here I am in the championship. Tim, there you go. Tim, post who your roster was. I'm curious who it was, and I do remember saying that. Now I'm curious to see who you have. Chandler and Montgomery for the finals. Montgomery. Chandler has a rough matchup. Another wide receiver that made it in both of the leagues. Hold on, let me just Amon-Ra St. Brown. There was another one that was an easy call. He made the Final Four in both of my leagues. Garrett Wilson made the Final Four in both of my leagues. That one surprised me too, because you figured, he was a second round pick in almost all leagues. Aaron Rodgers goes out like, disaster. But here he is. Tight ends, TJ Hawkinson and Trey McBride, the only two tight ends to double up in both my leagues to make the finals. Both of those guys. And Ty Chandler, by the way, made the Final Four in both my leagues as well. So that was interesting. Tim, I'm looking forward to seeing who you posted there. I'm curious to see who that league winning team is that I told you. And you know what, guys? A lot of it is just the injuries, avoiding the injuries. I'm in 6 championships, but wow. And I have Achane on 3 teams. I have Jefferson too. Wow, 6. How many leagues are you in, bud? 6 championships. Oh my God. That's crazy. CeeDee Lamb in both for wide receiver. Yeah, I have him in 1, Sean. Do you think Keenan plays this week? No, I don't think so. I think he's done. All right, so let's see. CMC, Amon-Ra, who we just talked about, Jalen Waddle, Ramondre Stevenson, that's surprising to me. Justin Herbert, he went out early. DK Metcalf got it. That was an awesome-looking team. You're right. At the beginning of the season, that was an awesome-looking team. So, obviously, CMC, Amon-Ra, Jalen Waddle, those were your winning picks. DK Metcalf's been good. Goddard. Yeah, Tim, you probably picked up some guys too because, Goddard, Stevenson, Herbert, late. Who's your quarterback now? I'm curious. Going to be commissioned next year. Any advice? Oh, yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. Listen, here's the thing. If they don't the most important rule as a commish, set a deadline to get the payment in a month before the draft. And if they don't pay by then, kick them out and get somebody else. I'm dead serious about that. There is nothing worse than chasing down money. If they can't pay, and especially you all probably know each other, if they can't pay a month ahead or even 3 weeks, whatever, get rid of them. Now working, I'm in total of 8. Wow, so 6 out of 8. Good for you. I'm now working with Baker Mayfield. Wow, yeah, he's been good. That's a shock. That whole Tampa Bay team was Seattle last year with Geno Smith. The same exact situation. Trey McBride, league winner. Trey McBride was an absolute league winner. This guy, I'm all over him next year. I'm telling you right now, I want him everywhere. Lost in the semis. It was a good run. Yeah, Boozy, sorry to hear that. I lost in one of my semis as well. Baker Mayfield. So, yeah, Tampa Bay, that was crazy. How should I feel about T. Higgins this week? Snead locked up Adams last week. A tough matchup. I'm not liking T. Higgins, I don't think, this week. Made a trade for Aaron Jones. Also picked up Zeke. Yep, Zeke was good. Had Pittman in the draft list. Pittman is QB proof. We found that out this year as well. McBride, tight end 3 next year. Listen, Kelsey's probably tight end 2. I think Laporte is tight end 1. I'm sorry, I really think so. I think it's Laporta, Kelsey, McBride, Andrews. Pittman is a stud. Now, guys, let me ask you this. So, Rise, you said you're in 8 leagues. Fab budget, never get a chance at free agents. Oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So, other commish, make sure you have all of the rules set in place and talk about them before the draft. One big one, tell everybody when the team is eliminated, you're locking them up. Some people get pissed off, this consolation game's bullshit. Tell them at the draft, if you're eliminated, I'm locking your team. That's another big thing for Kamish. As far as trades are concerned, it's got to be league. If you're going to vote on trades. And again, I don't ever veto trades. I gave you guys the story this year. Austin Ekeler was traded for Jerome Ford and Devin Achane. Everyone went wild. I said, I'm putting it through as the commish. It looked so one-sided. Ekeler, best player in fantasy last year. But now, fast forward, I know Achane's had a little bit of a quiet finish, but Eckler's been dog shit. That trade looked a lot more even. As a matter of fact, the guy who had Ford and Achane probably won the deal. One of my leagues didn't have the IR spot. Yeah, that's another thing. Another commission rule. If you're doing Yahoo, the IR spot, they let you put a guy who misses one game in the IR spot. Let it go. You can't have it. You can't be policing everybody every week, making sure they don't put guys in the IR spot. If it's there, people are going to do it. Unless his old man Matt Ryan. Yeah, that's true. But he's even last year he caught 90 passes. Lost in the first round. Oh, I see. Jake Elliott's carried me through some close matches. Find a good kicker. Yeah, don't have kickers next year. That's another thing. Guys, get rid of the kicker. There's no point in having kickers. There's no rhyme or reason for the skill. Harrison Butker is the best kicker outside of Justin Tucker, but they score touchdowns at such a high clip that the best kickers are not. Their point totals are not conducive, are not always consistent with their actual ability. Full PPR, got Fields, Ekeler. You made it with Ekeler, huh? Yeah, Puka's on a lot of teams in the championship. Tyreek, Evan Engram, Warren, Evan Engram too. Tyreek, yep. That was the other one. Jalen Warren was on both of my Final Four teams as well. Jalen Warren. So that was a good pickup for people. What are some of the other commish things I've run into? And being the commissioner absolutely sucks. Like it's just a thankless job. I hate it. Like, the money thing is the worst though. You definitely have to set that ahead of time. And the vetoing, if you have 12 members, the 2 teams that did it, sit it out. 6 of 10 have to vote against the trade to let it go through if you're leaving it up to the league. Okay. A lot of times people veto trades to block somebody else thinking, if I don't veto this trade, this team's going to get too strong. No, can't do it. You can't have a trade decided that way. Did I put in Zeke over Aaron Jones or Ty Chandler? No, I like Aaron Jones this week. I really do. I wouldn't do that. One of my championship lineup, Dak, Kyron, Gibbs. Wow. Lamb, Sun God, McBride, Puka. You don't win that one. Something went very wrong. Monty, Singletary, or Chandler? Monty. I'm going to go Monty. Chandler, not an easy matchup. Singletary is just too inconsistent for me to depend on. Monty is pretty much good for a touchdown almost every single game. There's one team who lost who has his whole team on the bench except 2 guys. Not sure what he's up to. Has a really good team. Hope he doesn't drop in and screw it up. Wow. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot. If you have a guy who's a sore loser, kick him out as well. Oh, that's what I want to ask you guys. So, Rise, I know you said you have 8 teams. Do you guys find it hard to root to watch fantasy when you have too many teams? Like I remember hearing Matthew Berry, he's got something like 16 teams. I can't have that many teams because part of the fun for me about watching fantasy with only 2 teams is that I really can get extra pumped up about my guys because they're mine, right? I'm not sharing. Maybe with one other league I'm sharing. If I have 10 teams, chances are I own everybody and I'm playing against everybody. Chances are I have CeeDee Lamb on 2 teams and I'm going against CeeDee Lamb in 2 teams. Like, what's the fun in that? You know what I mean? So when I have 2 teams, I'm all in with my guys. I'm watching their games. I talked to you guys about last week how I went against Jefferson and Pacheco, and I own Jefferson and Pacheco. So that was the rare exception this season where that happened. Of course, it happened in a playoff game. But I feel like the fewer teams you have, you got to have at least 2 or 3. 3 is the max I've had. Then you could root more directly with your guys. That's how I look at it. 2 teams for me. Hey, rooting for it. Yep, there you go. Same thing. Just draft the same guys on both teams. Well, I wouldn't do that. You want to diversify because if you suffer a season-ending injury, then you don't. Then you're doubly screwed. So, like on my teams, the only guys that I had double of were in-season pickups, like Trey McBride. I didn't draft the same player on my teams. Actually, there was one guy I did. One single guy in both of my leagues I drafted in both, And it's because I'm a Giant fan. It was Darren Waller. And I actually really liked Waller this year, but he was a bust again. And now I'm completely done with Darren Waller. Yeah, Sean, it's annoying. I don't like doing that. Is Chase a bust because of Burrow? He's a bust because of Burrow. That's it. Stop. And stop. There's nothing beyond that. Champions 12-man full PPR flexes Hurts, Brees, Kamara, CDA. Wow, those receivers are just insane. And I see where you got the value there from Kamara and Hall. So I assume you went St. Brown, Olave, and then Hurts, and then you probably went CD, Amon-Ra, Hurts, Olave, Hall, and Kamara. And those are all hits, every single one of them. I hope they do enough, but not too much. Yeah, right. Zeke or DK at the flex. That's not an easy matchup against Buffalo, but he's catching a lot of passes, Zeke. I still would go with DK, I think, though. Scoot like Chubb over earlier to take Bijan 10th overall. Yeah, Bijan, but that wasn't his fault. We all know it was a coaching situation there. Hey, Run CMC, happy holidays. Love the team name. I'm on Brees next year. I think next year the value will be running back again. I'm a sucker for Brees, and this is the wide receiver guy that's talking. Roger, yep, Tim, we talked about that earlier. Major bust for Roger Stevenson. Traded Addison for T. If you guys listened to the podcast earlier today, pretty much almost every player in the first round went bust this year. Traded Addison for T when he got hurt, and then Burrow got hurt. So yeah, I mean, listen, I'm no longer a fan of wide receiver twos on the same team. T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle. Waddle was better than Higgins this year, but still. I mean, and even Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, they seem to be trading big weeks, every other week. And that's annoying. So anyway, do you guys enjoy the podcast? By the way, I know I've been doing a lot of live streams this season, not as much podcasts. The podcasts are more for the off season, but do you guys like the podcast? Do you like pop it on while you're at work and whatever? I always like to get some feedback on the podcast. I do like the podcast for myself too, because then I could just do it whenever and just upload it. Let me know what you guys think of that. Higgins wasn't good this year. Yeah, he's never really gone to that next level. Waddle stunk this year, in my opinion. He flashed more than Higgins, but you're right. He was clearly in Tyreek's shadow. Podcast when I work out. Oh, excellent. That's what I like to hear. When you're working out, podcast, awesome. That's good. Rachaad White was the value of running back value of the year outside of maybe Kyren Williams. And I actually think, the fact that Kyren got hurt, Rachaad White might have been even better. We swerved ambulance this week in one of them. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was coming home. That's right. I was driving the other day. Swerve ambulances all over the place. That's right. The fog was crazy that morning. Pittman, yep, absolutely. Pittman was tremendous. Starting Hurts, Hill, Sun God, Puka, Njoku, Tucker Browns. Need two running backs. Pollard, Achane. Definitely Gibbs. I think you'd have to try Pollard again. I don't like the matchup for Achane. Monty's good for a touchdown, but you can't play both of them. So I would probably be forced to go Pollard and Gibbs. Now, also, guys, how into the NFL draft are you guys? Because I am going to be doing NFL draft stuff during the offseason. Player profiles, things like that. My NFL prospect draft guide will be out in February. I will sell an online version here on the homepage, PDF version. So I'll just send it right to you as soon as you pay. And there'll also be a paperback version, which will be available on Amazon and also barnesandnoble.com. So make sure you look for that. And then the fantasy football draft guide will be coming probably March in that neighborhood, March, April. I'm always the first one out with it too. And if you get the PDF version, I do update it. Pass up and keep White in the 12th for Olave 9th. Yeah, I mean, it's for either one is fine. Championship at Stafford, Murray, Kamara, Bijan, Diggs, Olave, Kelsey, Gibbs, Cooper Walker. A lot of age. You have a lot of age on that team, Tony, but you got there. That's all that matters. Bama, you know what? Bama's playing really well. I think it's wide open. I think Alabama, I think I might agree with you on that one. They're playing really well right now. Charger fan with Tom Telesco, I'll be paying very close attention to the draft. Yes. Good. Yeah. So, Tim, I'll be doing a lot of draft stuff. Like I said, I'm going to be profiling a lot of these quarterbacks. I'll be doing individual videos on players and stuff like that. Thank you, Rain. I appreciate that. The podcasts are going to keep coming. There will be one tomorrow, so make sure you look at that as well. Lots of post analysis after the season's over. I'm going to have the All Fantasy Awards. I'll probably do that on the live stream. I'm going to have the bus team, the MVP team, the value team, all of that stuff. Got a lot of work to do. Jeff, yep. The Patriots, the Bears, the Commanders, they're all going to be in there for the quarterback. There's no doubt about that there. Those are the primary teams, I think, that are going to be in on the quarterbacks. All right, Washington Huskies will surprise you. Listen, I love the quarterback. I love that quarterback. Will he translate to the NFL? I like Bo Nix a lot too. Bo Nix, talk to you guys about accuracy. Bo Nix is probably the most accurate quarterback in this draft. Not the biggest guy, not the biggest arm, but he has incredible accuracy, and that always translates well. Bears need to go with Fields. He's good. I think he's plateaued. He has not reached that next level. He's got a little diva in him. He's a little bit of a hot dog. Not the most coachable guy by all appearances. So there's some immaturity there. But the talent is obvious. He's just got to get better as a passer. Now, Lamar Jackson, you could say, oh, Lamar Jackson. Look at Lamar Jackson this year. He's throwing better than I've ever seen him throw the football. He was a good comp for Fields earlier in his career, but he has now developed and gotten to that next level as a pure passer. I love Lamar Jackson. I think he's just one of my all-time favorite players. He's just so good. He really is. I just love watching the guy play. He is unbelievable. Just a great player all the way around, for sure. And I think that team is going places, hopefully. He's just got to step up in the playoffs, which has been a struggle in the past for him. Hasn't always played great in the playoffs, so we got to see there. Against Penn State and Maryland. Yep. McCarthy, yeah, he definitely, and he's a prospect as well, for sure. I think he's going to be probably in that second round area code. All right, guys, I think I'm going to end it here. Good long stream, almost an hour, so getting a little tired, and the voice is starting to go a little bit. So thank you guys for popping in. I appreciate that, as always. Thank you for all your generosity, members, all that stuff. So, and super chats, all that generosity, I really appreciate, guys. So look for a podcast tomorrow. I'm going to have that up probably late morning. Until then, guys, have a great rest of your day. We will talk sometime tomorrow. Take care, guys.